Now, I mentioned this in a video before I left for work yesterday because it's been blowing up on the internet and all over the sporting news that UCLA and USC are planning by 2024 at least to leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. And again, like I said in there, even though this is huge, this is a big move, they still got to go through a lot of other channels. Now, unless they've already done that, then, there's nothing else to say. But, we haven't heard them say anything of, these schools going through any other channels or discussing yet with the NCAA or even the Pac-12 that, this is, that they got to prevent this. Now, apparently the Pac-12, from what I'm just finding out, has at least, the commission, the higher ups that have talked to the ADs of all the Pac-12 conference schools that are still part of it, outside of USC and UCLA, and have talked about two potential things happening. That's expansion, and that is, of course, merging. The expansion part is potentially looking into other schools. Now, California-wise, the two logical choices, or three logical choices actually, are San Diego State, Fresno State, and San Jose State. Those are the most logical choices to elevate into the Pac-12 in placement of losing UCLA, USC, and potentially, if they follow suit, Oregon and Washington. So those three I could see potentially being called to the Pac-12 down the line. Now, here's the thing though. Like I said, USC and UCLA, they still got to go through the other channels. They may have made their intentions known now. Yes, it is a shock. They do have the prestige and the power and the money to make it happen, but they still got to go through other channels. Right now, it does seem like, because of who they are, the directive is towards the Big Ten, but I don't think that's going to be something that's concrete or in stone just yet until the NCAA, as far as I know, concretely confirms it or denies it. Now, like I said, expansion-wise, those three schools that I mentioned are the potential outlets, in my opinion. Another outlet as well is looking at Boise State. Boise State, I think, is already in discussions with the Big 12, but I think Boise State has also been in contact and in discussions with the Pac-12. So I can see Boise State being, I guess you could say, persuaded, if you will, to come over to the Pac-12 and help fill that potential void. I could see them doing that. Sorry about that. The microphone wire hooked on something. It's fine. But like I said, I could see them potentially trying to attract Boise State over to, join them to, fill that potential void left behind. Other schools as well. Other schools as well that they can help, bring into the limelight, if you will. Hawaii is a good example. They can call upon Hawaii. That's, even though that's another time zone, that's still Pac-12. That's still Pacific Pac-12 territory. They can call on Hawaii. They can go over across the state and say, Nevada, we want you guys. We want you in the Pac-12. UNLV, we want you in the Pac-12. And UNLV's got a new facility that they share with the Raiders. What is it? What's the name again? Allegiant Stadium. They could use that. The Pac-12 could, and the Pac-12 holds what? The conference championships there, I think. I think they hold it there. No, wait. Yeah, they hold it there as well as they hold it in SoFi. They kind of rotate. So I think with the attraction that UNLV has at Allegiant Stadium as a new home, that would be enough for the Pac-12 to say, hey, Rebels, come on in. We want you to be part of us. And that can happen too. So expansion-wise, the door is open for plenty of teams from San Jose State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Hawaii, Nevada, UNLV, maybe even New Mexico and New Mexico State to jump on board. If and only if, ladies and gentlemen, the NCAA confirms and allows this move to happen. That's if and only if, because again, they could deny it. Like I said in the video, they could look at this proposal and they could laugh it off. I'm sure some of the members of the Pac-12 Athletics Board are laughing it off too, even though, yes, they do agree it's got to be taken seriously because it could potentially become a reality. Some of them deep down are laughing it off, like these two schools think they're so high on the totem pole that they could just do this, when then they forget they got to go through other channels to make it happen. Anyway, though, with that said, there's also talks of merger, and one of the potential mergers that they're talking about is with the Big 12, because the Big 12 is in a similar situation right now, where basically within the next several years they will lose Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. And if that does happen, they do need some schools coming in. And right now it looks like they got some schools on the verge of doing that. BYU, USF, and a few others are on the verge of coming in to take this place of Oklahoma and Texas. But even with that said, would that be enough? Would that be enough, to keep them in that Power 5 discussion? Because a lot of people are looking at the SEC and the Big Ten acquiring these new schools, potentially, if not confirmedly, and they're looking at the fact that college football, college sports in general, is just going to be a two-conference sport, or two-conference, athletic, what's the word I'm looking for? Two-conference athletic endeavor. That's what they're looking at. If the other move that's been announced happens with USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, along with the confirmed move of Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, would the move of USF and BYU and a few others potentially be enough? Would it be enough for the Big 12 to be looked at as a Power 5 conference? Would the potential additions of the ones I've mentioned, like Boise State, Fresno State, San Jose State, San Diego State, Hawaii, Nevada, UNLV, potentially New Mexico State, would those be enough to keep the Pac-12 going as a Big 5 power conference? We don't know. Again, Boise State is also being, I guess you could say, proposed to, by the Big 12 to come on board, to join, the likes of BYU and USF. And that might have already been done and confirmed. We don't know yet. But a lot of these moves could and could not potentially keep these schools, along with the ACC, if you will, and the AAC, alive as Power 5 conferences. They could or could not do it. Now again, it all depends, going back to what I said, whether or not the NCAA will officially go all the way through with, giving the approval to USC and UCLA to make the move. So if that does happen, expansion, like I said, is another option for the Pac-12 to survive, or to keep going, keep thriving on strong, if not stronger than ever. But then again, as people are discussing now, there's potential merger with the likes of the Big 12. And that could make and here's the thing too, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 merging together, that happens, SEC and Big 10, if their belief is by adding these new schools is going to make them the super power conferences, above everybody else, is going to make them the be-all, end-all. If the Pac-12 and Big 12, come together, they're going to have a run for the money. That's going to be one thing. They will have a run for the money. If not, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 coming together as one conference, a super conference, could blow the SEC and the Big 10 out of the water, and maybe even make them consider of merging as well. But that's a potential what if scenario. in my opinion, the most likely mergers of conferences to kind of keep them, in a Power 5 scenario would be the smaller conferences merging with the bigger conferences. So in other words, I look at something like the Mountain West merging with the Pac-12. I see something like, let's say, the MAC merging with the Big 12. I see those kind of conferences, as small as they are, and as much as they have a legacy that goes years and decades, before us, I could see those conferences merging into the others. And we remember, before the Big 12, there was the Southwest Conference, the SWC. What happened? The SWC merged into two separate conferences, the SEC and the Big 8, if you will. And as a result, the SEC ended up getting two new divisions. Big 8 went to be Big 12, and they got two new divisions. And the Southwest Conference was no more. So I could see something similar like that happening with the Mountain West merging in with the Pac-12 and the MAC merging in with the Big 12. I could see that. So that way the conferences still have, big enough of a size to be considered powerhouse conferences, super conferences to an extent. And it also opens up the door for a lot of these other schools, unless they get a perfect record and they get some notable wins and everything, that normally wouldn't, to potentially get a sniff at a New Year's Eve Six Bowl or New Year's Six Bowl or even a playoff bowl. It gives these other schools more opportunities at bigger bowl games that they normally wouldn't get into unless the circumstances, came and made that happen, like we've seen over the past couple of years. So, so could it occur? So could those two mergers be more logical? Absolutely. Those two mergers, in my opinion, would be more logical than two major conferences coming together to become one super conference, because if that happens, the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be like, oh, screw you, we're going to outdo you, and it's going to be tit for tat. So to me, the most logical explanation, the most logical direction to go in is to merge, in my opinion, merge the Mountain West with the Pac-12 and merge the MAC with the Big 12. That's how I look at it. But again, this is all dependent. It's all dependent on USC and UCLA getting the full 100% approval to make the move. They can say it's happening. They can come out and make it look official, say it's official and everything because of who they are. But they still got a few obstacles to go through. And the one thing I have noticed is a lot of people that have been talking about this are using the word using the words may or may be, because even they know there's still some hurdles for USC and UCLA to overcome to make this official in any capacity. But what are you guys' thoughts? How do you feel about, once again, this whole USC UCLA potential move to the Big Ten? What do you think will come of it? Do you think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 will merge together to be the Super 24, if you will? Do you think that'll happen? Do you think the more logical answer is to either expand and grab the teams that I've mentioned, that kind of are close to the regional or the region for the conference? Or do you think a merger, but not on the sides of Big 12, Pac-12 together, but a merger of MAC into Big 12 and Mountain West into Pac-12 is more logical? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chats will be enabled during the premiere in the live chat, just like they always are. Along with super stickers would be greatly appreciated. Super thanks as well would be greatly appreciated. And you can help find me at Venmo at Brian-Warmer-2. Help me out there. As well as at Cash App at BW